There are a lot of things to be excited for the next generation of Pokemon games, Sun and Moon. We'll get new starter Pokemon, a new region, and learn more about existing Pokemon with Mega Evolutions and new forms. But since the games aren't out for several months, there's still a lot we don't know. That ambiguity, of course, leads to a lot of fan speculation, and I know there are already many videos out there on the internet discussing people's hopes and dreams for these games, but I'm hoping to add some new points to the mix here, so let's get started. Here are 12 things that would be cool to see in Generation 7. Since the region is looking to be tropical islands, similar to Hawaii, many of the points on my list will be taking that environment into consideration. First up is Pokemons whose designs vary slightly by area. This has occurred before, for example in Generation 4 with Shellos. In certain parts of the region, it was pink, while in other areas, it was blue. Also, the shape of its head varied slightly. It would be neat to see this effect again in the new games. While you're traveling through the tropical island, certain Pokemon will look different depending on where you are. An example I'd really like to see is Crustle. If you were to see a Crustle on the beach, it might have a shell composed of layers of sandstone, but if you found one closer to the volcano, it may have a basaltic shell composed from hardened lava flows. Number 2. Volcano-related Pokemon. Since the games are taking place on Poke Hawaii, it seems practically obligatory for the game's plot to somehow feature a volcano. This should result in some interesting new Pokemon hanging out there. The previous games introduced some great fire Pokemon, like Macargo and Camerupt, both of which I would expect to find wild around a volcano, and I'm hoping in the new games we'll get some more great fire types like these. And maybe some fire rock types too, because even though they're terrible in battle, I usually like them. The volcano theme is actually already going on, with one of the more recent Pokemon introduced. Volcanion fits into this category quite well. Perhaps Nintendo was giving us some foreshadowing there. Number 3. Diving and treasure hunting. It seems that in the past games, certain regions have their own specific HMs designed for challenges that only really appear in that particular region. Like Generation 2 has Whirlpool, Generation 3 has Dive, and Generation 4 has Defog. With an abundance of water in the new region, unless our player can somehow carry a boat around in their backpack, we'll be surfing, and hopefully diving, a lot. One of the things I really enjoyed about the 3rd generation games was the ability to dive down to the ocean floor to look for rare Pokemon and go treasure hunting. I've always liked looking around for items, and the Generation 6 item finder is great, even though I don't know why they made it a hat for Alpha and Omega. So I've got big hopes that we'll be in for some fun treasure hunting this time around. Sunken ships to pillage, rare stones hidden on the ocean floor, sounds like a good time to me. Number 4. I think we're on 4, I don't know, I didn't number my list. Interesting NPC battles. Now, this is something we can probably all agree on. Having practically every battle against a computer player in the main story be a standard battle can get really repetitive after a while. Generation 6 did give it some variety with the introduction of sky battles, which are exclusively for flying Pokemon, and I'd really like to see more of these special battles. Underwater battles would be an interesting twist on sky battles, like only your swimming Pokemon could join. Or maybe have a battle at a volcanic caldera, and only your fire type or heat resistant Pokemon could enter, kind of like Blaine's Gym in the anime. Even just including more double or triple battles would help to keep things fresh. New trailers show a Battle Royale mode, a 4-player free-for-all, but that looks like something you would do more with your friends and not in-game NPCs, but we'll have to see how that goes. Number 5. Bulk Wonder Trade. Now, I've spent far more time than I'd like to admit throwing Pokemon into Wonder Trade. This feature, introduced in Generation 6, gives you a random trade partner over the internet and you each trade a pre-selected Pokemon. You never know what you'll get until it arrives. It's basically the closest thing you can do to gambling now that Nintendo has stopped putting casinos into the newer games. Because underage gambling is bad, okay?
Okay.
My only real complaint with Wonder Trade is that it's kind of a slow process, especially if you keep doing trade after trade after trade, because you have to go back through all the menus each time. Why not speed this up by making it so that a player could send up to 6 non-HM Pokemon into Wonder Trade at once? That could be some crazy fun. I totally forget, okay. Mythology. Going back to the Hawaii connections, Pele is the Hawaiian goddess of storms and volcanoes, is said to be the creator of the islands. According to legends, she is in competition with other goddesses which represent snow and rain. Well, maybe this is sounding a bit similar to the Ruby and Sapphire plot. Pele herself is considered to be a passionate deity who may become jealous or enraged easily. Also, I remember from my own travel to Hawaii, a guide said not to take the rocks from the volcano, or Pele shall curse you forever. Of course I took some lava rocks anyway. I keep them here on my desk, and they're very nice, and there's no sign of a curse yet. But anyway. Perhaps this could correlate to some plot in the game, where a powerful fire Pokemon is seeking to destroy one of the islands with the volcanic eruption. Okay, I'm not even counting anymore. Let's talk fashion. X and Y were really innovative in that you could actually change the appearance of your player character. And for it being the first time for that option to be implemented, the variety of clothing and hairstyles was, I would say, surprisingly good. Several different hairstyles, sports clothes, suits, dresses, piles of socks. My only real complaint? Why is a hat the only thing you're allowed to put on your head? Now some people want to get rid of the hat altogether, but I'm not in favor of that. If the anime and previous games have taught me anything, it's that if you want to be the very best, you better be wearing something on your head. I'm just looking for a little more variety in what that can be. The only case I can think of in the main series games where a player character is wearing something that isn't really a hat is the female player character from Ruby and Sapphire, who in both the original and the remakes is wearing a bandana. It would be cool to see more options like this: bandanas, helmets, headbands, ears, flowers, headlamps, drink hats maybe? I don't know. Those would all be cool headgear options. Let's just say that I really hope we can change hats. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the little chicken thing that the new girl has. Fish Pokemon. Every game has to have them. Some have really great designs, while others are quite bland and forgettable. In this new watery region, Pokemon has the chance to introduce some really great new water types, and fish in particular. Looking at images of tropical fish, you'll see that there's quite a variety, and you may wonder why Pokemon designers haven't really capitalized on some of these cool animals before. It would be great to see some Pokemon inspired by fish like these. And some of these fish do have Pokemon based on them already, but they're kinda lame. I saw one of the new promo videos showing some new Pokemon for Sun and Moon, and I gotta say I'm a bit disappointed in this fish. It's not terrible or anything, there's far worse fish out there. I just think they can do a bit better than this. And I'm really hoping to see some amazing water Pokemon in the actual game. New fossils. This is clearly my personal bias. I love the rocks and the fossils, and it's just my favorite thing in the series. So I would love to see some new fossils in these games. However, let's have a geology lesson for a minute and see why fossils may not be so logical here. Hawaii, basically the analog for the Alola region, is very young geologically. So that means these islands weren't formed yet when the dinosaurs lived, and definitely not when the Paleozoic creatures lived. Also, because of the igneous environment, fossils do not preserve well either. The fossils that do exist are very rare and are generally recent marine organisms like corals or mollusks, and occasionally a land plant or a bird. However, if new fossils were introduced, they may be a rock-fire type upon revival, as they would have been preserved in volcanic rock. Or perhaps new fossils of dinosaur or Paleozoic Pokemon could be introduced again as well, and simply not be native to the islands, being brought to the islands by someone else after they were fossilized. Music. Now, back in my day, all video games had pretty much the same sound. You know that sound. Yeah, that's pretty good. But we're at the point now where even handheld game systems can reproduce any style of music in reasonable enough quality. So I'm hoping that these games will include a tropical style soundtrack. I'm not saying that every tune should have that sound. It may not make sense for the battle music to sound like a luau, but some nice, chill, tropical background music and an islandy sounding remix of the Pokemon Center theme would really add to the atmosphere. Now this one may be a bit divisive if something like this actually happens. A new type. Introducing a new type isn't something that should be taken lightly. Not only do the strengths and weaknesses of that type have to balance out with the other existing types, but there also must be enough Pokemon and moves to justify having that type exist at all. I've been wanting to see a space or astral type for a while now, since I played Generation 3 and saw Pokemon like Solrock and Lunatone, which are both rock psychic types. In other generations too, there are several Pokemon and moves that seem like they should belong in a space category. And imagine the kinds of cool new designs Pokemon with that typing could have. Even the names of the games, Sun and Moon, suggest a relevance to space. Also, with Hawaii having large telescopes, the islands in the game may be similar, including an observatory type building, and that might be a good way to introduce an astral type and give it some lore. Just something to consider. I know that with fairy still being relatively fresh, it may be too soon to introduce a new type. But if and when a new type is introduced, this would be a fun direction to go. And of course, this list can't be complete without considering new mega evolutions. With the huge emphasis on megaforms in Generation 6, it's almost certain that we'll be seeing more of that in Generation 7. So here are a few Pokemon that could logically get mega evolutions. Firstly, the Johto starters. With Generations 1 and 3 already having mega starters, it's about time the second generation gets the same treatment. In particular, I'd like to see Mega Meganium, and not only because of that ridiculously redundant sounding name, Mega Meganium. It's also this Pokemon's design. With prominent hibiscus flower, it begs for a tropical themed Mega. Similarly, Tropius, one of my favorite Generation 3 Pokemon, is also based on tropical plants and would greatly benefit from a Mega form, or even just a regular evolution. And lastly, so as not to drag this on too long, how about some Mega Fish? Perhaps Seaking, Lantern, or Lumineon. Those would all be pretty cool. And if you can't tell, I do have some high hopes for the fish in this game. Okay, fine, one more. Mega Dragonite. Not because I care at all about its Mega form, but just because I'd like to find a stone called Dragonite-ite. Or probably a better pronunciation would be Dragonitite. So, there you have it. Remember that this list is totally opinion-based, and it's okay if you disagree with any or all of this stuff. If you'd like to see these kind of things, or something entirely different, let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching.